Life is beautiful, isn't it, though? Right now, it is just gorgeous outside. The sun is shining. It is an absolutely beautiful day, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the Aired Out Podcast, live from Fly on the Wall Productions on North Main Street in Barrie. We're streamed everywhere you get your podcasts. We're on the web at airedoutvt.com. We were talking a whole heck of a lot about that yesterday with Mary Peterson from Woodland Studios. What an amazing lady and an incredible job that she has done with our all-new website. I am thrilled with it. Happy birthday today to Bob Sample, who's on the list. I see Brenda posting that up this morning. Michelle Tiffany is celebrating one as well. Patty O'Neill is on the list. Oh, boy. Jamie Jones. Naomi Tilton. Happy birthday. Let's see. Lou Fury is on the list today as well. Vern Doolin. Happy birthday, Vern. I'm just looking at my list here. Crystal Merrill. Melody St. John. Is it the 28th already? Wow. Samantha Fow, Karina Alexander, Richard Foster, Bruce Valerie. Look at these birthdays here. There's a lot. Anna Delamedia, and Pat Chamberlain. Sandy Luce. The list goes on. Wow. Happy birthday, everybody. Hope you're doing all right. Man, there is so much going on. The community calendar is just jammed, and frankly, I am thinking about doing an episode just for our community calendar because it is packed, absolutely jammed. There is so much happening in our community. I don't even know where to begin. I have glanced at the world. I've had a look at it, and I see everything that's happening. It is amazing. Just a quick programming note here. June 4th, which is that really, truly a week from today? Jen Guy, the Director of Human Skills and Student Engagement, is going to be my guest here on the Aired Out Podcast from Sweethearts and Heroes. And an amazing lady who's done amazing things. About 2,000 elementary school students and about 100 high school students from 6 North Country schools have participated in the community days and are still involved with us in the month of May and coming up in June with Sweethearts and Heroes. These high schoolers in these school districts are absolutely smashing barriers and doing remarkable, remarkable things with the help, yes, of their teachers and the administrators at their schools, and, of course, with the great help of Sweethearts and Heroes. But they're just doing incredible, incredible things. This is basically obstacle courses and team challenges that are similar to the Spartan-supported races that these high school students completed at Sweethearts and Heroes the first couple of days of that Youth Leadership Summit last September. And with me is Haley Sutphen on the line. Good morning, Haley. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm great. How are you?
I'm so glad to have you. You know, man, it's like Rick and Tom Loudon, all of these guys have been singing your praises for weeks now. I've been hearing about you, and I only hope to meet you someday. I hope that will happen. Tell us.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
So you're a senior at Ticonderoga.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So are you allowed to, I'm assuming you're allowed to break free from your studies and hop on the air with us here, or you?
Oh, yeah, of course.
This is wonderful. Tell us a little bit about you. You're a senior. You're graduating very soon.
Yes, less than a month, actually.
And you're headed where?
I am headed to Vanderbilt University in the fall. I'll be studying biomedical engineering, so I'm
Biomedical
pretty
engineering
excited.
at Vanderbilt?
Yes, that is correct.
Wow. Smart kid. Well,
Thank you.
young lady, I should say. Young lady. How old are you?
I'm 18.
18 years old, and you're going to be doing this? This is amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. It doesn't feel real.
And you're at the top of your class right now, right?
Yes, I
You're
am. I actually found that out when Loudon and Abby were at my school the other day doing another type of interview.
you're
So I
you're
actually found out.
valedictorian?
Yeah, yes, I
Wow.
am.
Good for you. Tell us about how you got involved with Sweethearts and Heroes and how this has changed your life. I know that you're already changing the lives of so many kids, but what's your story? How did you discover this? How did you get involved?
Yeah, so my story, it's pretty complex, honestly. I started with Sweethearts and Heroes in 10th grade. At that point in my life, I wasn't necessarily thriving in the academic classroom, one could say. So ninth grade, I was pretty focused on school, actually so focused that I kind of went through a period of burnout. And that's kind of where I was, all throughout my sophomore year. It was just not really caring about school too much, not really caring about the sports that I was in, just, not really caring about too many things going on in my life. I was definitely struggling. I was, a young kid. I didn't really know who I was yet, and a lot of teenagers face that struggle, but I was facing it pretty hard. So I was, a sophomore, didn't really know who I was, struggling to stay motivated in school and with all of my activities that I was involved in. And then Tom and Rick came to my school in December of my sophomore year and gave a presentation. It was the first time I'd ever seen anything about them, I believe. I'd maybe seen them on social media, but I didn't really know who they were. Um, and Tom spoke, and I remember listening to him sitting in the auditorium and thinking to myself, okay, this guy, he seems to know what he's talking about a little bit. And then Rick came in. Rick walked in and he gave a presentation. And I remember just that moment really has been a changing point or a pivoting point for me in my life, listening to Rick speak about his experiences and just listening to the ways that he had to persevere through all the things that had happened to him, and how his whole memo, his whole message is you gotta have hope in order to get through a lot of these difficult things in your life. And I said this to Loudon the other day. I said it's incredibly hard to accept your own defeat after hearing Rick's story. And really, that is what happened to me. I was kind of giving up on myself. I wasn't motivated anymore in school. I didn't feel like I had anything going for me until I listened to Rick speak on that day. And from that moment forward, I knew that this was something that I wanted to be involved in.
Isn't that remarkable? So you're really paying attention here of what's being said and letting this into your not only your ears but also your soul. You're really dialed in here at a young age. That's so cool.
Yeah, I definitely was, especially during that presentation. I've always been someone who pays close attention to things. I'm very meticulous with my approach to life, especially school, at least most of the time. I don't like to let things slide or go unnoticed. So I was tuned into every word that both of them spoke on that day.
So you were struggling a little bit in your life at this time?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I had a lot of things going on. Um, a lot of mental health problems, to be completely honest. Mental health was definitely a struggle for me in 10th grade, and I was kind of trying to find ways to deal with it, and the ways that I was dealing with it weren't very healthy, mentally or physically. Kind of self-medicating, doing things like that. I wasn't doing well, and I didn't have a lot of good relationships surrounding me with my parents, with my friends, really with anyone. I didn't have a good relationship with myself, so that affected all the people around me. And I'd always my entire life, I have two parents who are teachers. My entire life I'd always been super super focused on school, and then in 10th grade I burnt out. I didn't care anymore. I didn't see the point in my academics anymore, because I really I didn't see the point in anything at that point in my life. So
If you don't mind my asking,
yeah, of course, ask anything.
I mean, I heard you say self-medicating, and I'm just wondering what that, if you can shed some more light on that, what that looked like, what that was.
Yeah, of course. I like to stay vague at first just to not go too into detail, but really I was smoking a lot of weed, doing a lot of things like that, typical teenager, going out and partying on the weekends, except it wasn't on the weekends, it was 7 days a week. Um, which I mean isn't really healthy for anyone, but it wasn't good for me as a high school kid to be doing that all the time. It was an outlet for me. It was the only way that I knew how to deal with everything that was going on in my life. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
Do you feel that meeting the guys from Sweethearts and Heroes, that your school, bringing them into your school, was definitely a pivotal moment for you? Is this something that really, we already know it had an impact on you, but it can have an impact on someone, and that's great, but they can still go on and slip back. Was this a turning point for you, meeting these guys and hearing their message?
Oh, 100%. I 100% honestly believe that I would not be maybe even graduating high school if that presentation never happened. I was so just shut away and turned away from everything. It was a turning point. It affected so many things for me later on down the road. Not immediately, but it kind of when they came in and spoke, it planted a seed of, okay, Rick and Tom, they got through all of these hard things in their life, especially Rick. It kind of just planted the seed, like, if he can do that, so can I. And from that moment forward, I think I was kind of disappointed with myself, prior to them coming in. I was like, okay, Haley, like, why are you doing this? Why are you smoking so much weed all the time? Why are you not unlocking your full potential anymore? Like, what's going on? So it was a wake up call for sure. And meeting them and speaking with them, they're good people, and you can just tell when you talk to them and when you meet them. And everybody in my school kind of understood that collectively. We wanted them to come back immediately.
And
So
you're in what grade at this point? Ninth grade, 10th grade?
this was 10th grade. So they came to my school 10th grade, and 10th grade was really that low period that I've
All right.
been
So,
talking about.
as a sophomore, though, it's like, you have conversations when you're around other adults, but you also have a whole separate kind of a conversation when you're around your peers,
Mm.
which I'm guessing, 10th grade, there's a lot of goofing around. There's a lot of goofing around. What were you saying to your peers about this, for lack of a better term, this transformation that you were going through as a result of Sweethearts and Heroes? What were you saying to your peers about these guys and about how this was impacting you.
In regards to the transformation itself, honestly, I think I didn't really have to say anything. People could just see it. They could see the effects of their their impact in my life. Um, as for what I was saying to my friends and just, the people around me, right in the beginning, it was, things were a little blurry. We didn't really know exactly what was going to happen with Sweethearts and Heroes. The first program we did with them was actually the Braves program, and I was involved with that, but that didn't really happen until I believe it was later on in my sophomore year or the beginning of my junior year. So it took time for things to kind of come together. Um, but I remember just n- the 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 talk around the school of that presentation. It didn't really die down ever. We'd go to lunch, and it kind of get brought up at least once. I don't want to say every day, but at least every couple of days. Like, oh yeah, you remember this, or remember what he said, referencing Rick or Tom or whatever. And a lot of the kids in my school were also pretty fascinated with Tom's past of the fighting, and they idolized him, and they idolized Rick for everything that he had done too.
Can you
So
imagine? Can you imagine? Can you imagine being in a high school without Sweethearts and Heroes?
no, I think I probably would have dropped out at some point, if I'm being completely honest. And I know that sounds really extreme, but I was very extreme at that point in my life, and I really, truthfully, just did not care. I was fed up. Without Sweethearts and Heroes, I don't think that ever would have changed. Maybe I would have graduated high school, maybe not. I wouldn't have gone on to do anything worthwhile. I know that for a fact.
Wow, what a testament! Tom is, as you well know, he is a guy that has a brain that never shuts off.
That's true.
He's always he goes from 0 to 60 in a half a second. He has all these acronyms, brave and hope and others. There's so many different programs and so many different philosophies that he's incorporating with Sweethearts and Heroes. Is this overwhelming at any point to you?
It's funny that you bring that up because I remember this past year, I think it might have been Christmas Day, honestly, or maybe it was New Year's. It was one of those two. He sent me a text about something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember thinking to myself, you know, this guy, he's still working, he's still going. And I noticed that because I find myself doing that a lot too. I'm very passionate about the things that I do. I enjoy the things I do at this point in my life, whether it be, math or science, whatever it is. But it kind of consumes the way that I operate because I do what I love. And Tom, I believe, is the same exact way.
Mm.
He's texting me on Christmas, New Year's, whatever, because his mind it never shuts off like you just said. And I respect that, somebody who really is passionate about the work that they do. It's not a job to him. Maybe sometimes I'm sure it gets overwhelming with emails and meetings, but
Yeah.
the work itself is something that he is passionate about and something that he wants to do. And not everybody operates that way. Not everybody finds the thing that they love to do. Um, so I think I respect it 100%, and it makes me want to work with him even more.
I was going to ask you about that. Tom sent me a text saying, "Before you have Haley on, we got to talk. This lady is the real deal. She really gets it. She really embraces everything that we're trying to accomplish with Sweethearts and Heroes. Are you
Mhm.
you're setting sail here soon for Vanderbilt? Are you going to be staying in touch with Tom and Sweethearts and Heroes? What are you going to be doing? I want to hear what you've been doing at school. You're doing huge presentations on bullying. Am I right?
Yes, I am. So, yep. So in terms of what I'm going to be doing, I don't know, and I was thinking about that about 5 minutes before I called in. Um, it's something that I want to stay involved in, and I know that for a fact. I am going to be living in Nashville, Tennessee, which is about 15 hours away. So the logistics of that, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to happen. And you know, I think as a person, I am aligned with everything that Sweethearts and Heroes is striving to accomplish and everything that they want to do. And I know that. And it makes me very intrigued as to the possibilities and the opportunities that could come from that sort of alignment. Um, Obviously, I want to go to college, get my degree in engineering and math and science because that's what I love. That's where what my interests are to my core. Tom and I talked about doing some sort of calls or some sort of online presence, I guess, because I am going to be so far away. But I'm interested to see what exactly will happen with that. I hope we can figure something out.
What have you been doing for the last year or so with these
Mhm.
youngins at your school? What are you saying to them about how are you representing Sweethearts and Heroes, and what are you saying to them about bullying?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been crafting our STEP program at our school, which I'm sure you've heard about. STEP is a program where you can get a certification to present, presentations on bullying to kindergarteners all the way up to second graders. And we spent a while figuring out what our presentations were going to be and practicing them, running through them. We did our first step presentations on my birthday, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And we follow the general script of the Sweet Arts and Heroes, the one that they provide, but we give it our own spin-off. It's not a copy and paste exactly what Tom and Rick do. It's our own story, which I find very interesting. And I've seen so many different kids in my school just have so much fun figuring out what they want their little hook to be for their presentation. And the elementary school kids, they love it. They listen to every word that we say, and they I mean, I think the information definitely gets into their heads because we keep it simple. We reiterate the same things over and over to make sure that they grasp onto it. I mean, my hook, I dressed up as a football player, and my opening scene, I guess, was me running in to they call it the fishbowl. It's like a auditorium. But I was running into this room with, rock music playing with a football helmet on and holding a football, trying to juke out these kids or doing a spin move, running all around them. And they thought it was awesome. And they got super excited, super hyped up. They thought it was fun. And doing that, getting them excited, getting them to think that what I'm about to do is fun, it makes them listen a little bit more. It helps them to listen a little bit more.
So, and you have there's a ton of responsibility with something like this. And listen, I'll tell you, and not to sound like an old man here, but this stuff was out of the question when I was your age. These conversations were not happening. Teachers were there to teach, and students were either bullied or they weren't.
Mhm.
And they took care of things on the playground, or they didn't. But there weren't conversations about this, and there most certainly wasn't conversations that were trickling down from other students, especially ones that were a few years older than us. This was just not happening at all.
Yeah. There's certainly been a change, and the change started when I was in elementary school. There was a bunch of presentations on bullying and respect and responsibility. You know, don't call people names, don't hit people, whatever. None of it really stuck. I mean, we would have a different person come into our school every single year. Like when I was from the ages of first grade to sixth grade. Um, and I think our school, similar to a lot of schools around us, we've been kind of looking for something that would be effective and fun and engaging, but I guess most importantly, effective. We wanted something that would work. And I think that Sweethearts and Heroes and all of their programs that they have, the Brace program, the STEP program, and soon the Hope program, I think it is what it's going to be called.
Which is an acronym for Hold On, Possibilities Exist.
Yes, exactly. But all of these programs, they're effective, they're fun, kids want to do them, they want to come to school to do it. I've talked to a bunch of even high school kids that are like, oh, we have Braves? Okay, I'll come to school today. It has that sort of effect, and it has that sort of effect on the elementary school kids as well. Um, I've established quite a few relationships with kids in first grade, second grade. You know, it's how society works. Young kids idolize older kids.
Yes.
We could say anything and they would listen to it with no filter, no,
That's right.
you know, they listen to every word that we say.
Yeah.
So we've certainly, I guess, not used that to our advantage, but we've utilized that because, you know, like I said, the kids are going to listen to older kids better than they would listen to their teacher or their parent a lot of the time.
What was this youth leadership summit like for you last September?
The one with all of the older kids?
Yes, that you were part of. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't know what to expect going into that summit, or into that Spartan race. It was a, I believe, 3-day, 2-day ordeal.
Threes.
Um, 3, yeah. When I tell you, my guidance counselor words it this way. She wishes that she could take all of the emotion and all of the, the vibe, the atmospheric vibe of those 3 days and all of that feeling and put it into a bottle and, and pour it out on days where bad things happen, where kids aren't feeling good. She wishes she could harness that energy and use it later on to offset bad things, I guess, or bad days that would happen in our school or in our school environment. Um, I've never seen so many kids from so many different backgrounds and schools with so many different interests and hobbies come together face to face, look at each other in the eye, not worry about who was texting them or, their Snapchat notifications, whatever it may be.
You didn't have any phones.
We didn't have any phones. And there are so many people that were very hesitant to that idea at first, like, oh no, I'm going to sneak my phone. I'm not doing that. But on day one, we played some game outside and there was not a single phone in sight. And it was awesome. It was a huge relief to just to look people in the eye and meet them and ask them, what's your name? Where are you from? What are your hobbies? Want to go do this? There was no distraction, I guess, like a phone would
Yeah.
be.
you're gonna miss this a little bit when you head off to Nashville.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
But Tom has given you some remarkable life skills and tools that you're going to be able to utilize in your life.
Yes, I think about that a lot.
Yeah, far outside of the classroom. You can be valedictorian till the cows come home, but in the end, having a mindset like this and trudging forward through life, having this knowledge and this this ability to be able to see things through a different lens is really, really important. And God bless Tom and Loudon and Rick and Brian and Pat and the rest of the team over at Sweethearts and Heroes for having such a profound impact on just one person, and that would be you. And like these guys say, and I incorporate this into my podcast too. If we could just change or help one person, that's all we're looking to do. And they certainly have done that with you, Haley.
They certainly have. I am so incredibly grateful for everything that they have done, and it was so unexpected. I mean, looking back now, I see all of the things that they've done for me and all the ways they've affected not only me but my entire school.
Yeah.
It is crazy. And like you said, if you can help one person, that's what you have to start with. That's what you need to focus on, because when you help one person, that person can go on to help others. And those are the things I have in my toolbox, I guess, now as I go forward. There's a handbook, a step-by-step process on how to solve most of the math problems out there. You can study scientific facts and learn anything you could possibly want about a lot of things in the academic world. But I knew that, and I was good at that, but I didn't know how to necessarily do life.
Yeah.
And so many teenagers all across the country, they don't know how to. How are you supposed to? It's your first time living. It's your first time experiencing all of these things. And
sure.
Especially as a young kid, not knowing who you are and trying to, I guess, figure out the distinction between who you are and who you want to be.
Yeah.
I really struggle with that. And all the ways that Sweethearts and Heroes helped me figure that out, I believe it's set me up for success in the future. There's no doubt in my mind. I've been through a lot of hard things, and because of Sweethearts and Heroes, I've learned how to handle those hard things. Life isn't always going to be easy, and I know that, and I understand that pretty well. But I personally, I believe, I've hit rock bottom. A lot of people have. I think it's only up from here, and not necessarily in a linear way, but I think I'm set up pretty well.
I think you are too, Haley. I hope. Listen, it would be great to meet you at some point someday. I don't know how. I don't know where. Probably Tom will figure that out. But thank you ever so much for hopping on the air with me this morning.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. I'd love to meet you as well. I think that'd be pretty cool. And, as a senior, I don't have too much going on anymore.
Yeah, right.
So.
It's just beginning. And, I would be willing to wager that that old King Tom has got a little misty in the eyes going this morning, listening to you. He has received many compliments from many adults over the years, and has experienced compliments in seeing young children and the effects that Sweethearts and Heroes has had on them. But to hear a young woman like you give this kind of testimony is pretty powerful stuff. I think you just made his day.
I hope I did. One of my long-term goals is to be able to give it back to him in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what it will look like, but
Wow.
when I want something, I get it. I am a pretty determined person overall, so I hope to be able to do that for him one day.
Thank you, Haley, so much. You made my day too.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Boy, wow, what a testimony right there from an 18-year-old senior at Ticonderoga High School. Amazing. Wow. Listen, in the short time that I have known Tom and the gang at Sweethearts and Heroes, in that short time, I have realized more than ever that I've done a lot of interviews, and I've been connected with a lot of wonderful organizations and people over the years. But man, it's like I am so blessed that Sweethearts and Heroes came to my daughter's school and that I have been introduced to these guys. Our Wednesday morning partnership is something that I am so excited about, and I look forward to so much every week. And I'm already looking forward to next Wednesdays.